Okay, our next topic is just in time, JIT. Now, I've got a definition here from the textbook. Pretty sure it's from the textbook. Philosophy of manufacturing based on planned elimination of all waste and the continuous improvement of productivity. We're not eliminating continuous improvement, we want that. But we're eliminating waste. Now this would be more of a definition, I think, of for total quality management, if you want to call it that, or lean. But here's a better definition, just in time. Inventory strategy to increase efficiency and decrease waste by receiving goods as they are needed, which reduces inventory cost. So, just in time being more focused on reducing inventory cost, and the way we do that is by reducing inventory. Now, when we talk about waste, we have to think about muda, and we've covered muda. There's a video for muda, and muda being waste in Japanese. And when it comes to inventory, we have waiting, muda being things waiting around, they're not doing anything. Inventory cost, which includes having warehouse space in general, and cash tied up in inventory. Now, and unneeded transportation, because if we bring in a raw material that's not going to get used, that was waste too. There's a lot of ways to look at muda. Inventory weights, we fill up, and a lot of this inventory is created by management, because management might tell purchasing to save money on the raw materials, and in order to save money on the raw materials, they have to order a huge amount of something to save money. So they buy in bulk to save money, which costs them more because they have to build a warehouse to put this stuff in. It doesn't make any sense. You're rewarding purchasing for doing the costing us a lot of money in the end. Inventory takes up space. We have to have a warehouse for it. And inventory, you've seen this at the house. Inventory rust. It might rot. It might get bugs, and it might discolor. There's a ton of things that happen when things are just sitting around. And inventory might not be needed or ever used. If you look in your pantry, you probably have something in there that's expired. You bought too much, you didn't need it. It was a waste of time at the grocery, it was a waste of money. Just get rid of the pantry, maybe. Because you never even used it. Now we have some assumptions, because with this just in time, we're trying to reduce inventory, and by reduce inventory, we don't order as much, we don't keep as much on hand. And there are some huge assumptions here. In order to practice just in time, we have to have a supplier relationship. There has to be trust in place. And we have to have everyone on top of their game. They have to be in the flow and ready to go, ready to practice with us just in time, the elimination of inventory. Now, if this isn't in place, we have this situation. If it's not here, we need a safety supply. So whenever you have a huge safety supply, that would lead you to believe that we don't trust the supplier, we don't have a relationship with the supplier, and not only do we not trust the supplier, they might be so unorganized that we have to keep a safety supply of things. So if you have a safety supply of things, ask yourself, why do we have to have a safety supply? Instead of having 10,000 of something on hand that might be rotting, getting bugs, discoloring, rusting, why do we have that? Why can't we reduce that? Well, the reason we can't reduce it is mentality of bulk purchases, and it might be a sign that we don't have a relationship, we can't trust the supplier. So now, if we can get this done, then we can start to do just in time. Problems. Still, we have some problems, some questions. What if the supplier fails? In the textbook, you'll see a picture of a manufacturing plant that caught on fire. And now we're out. We should have maybe had a safety supply. But in the case, if you read it, I believe it said everybody chipped in and got the place up to working, and we got back in business real quick because everybody's working together and we have relationships. We care about the supplier cares about us, we help each other out. Now, another question that comes up is minimum order to justify delivery. Instead of bringing a full truckload of supplies into the company, it would be a partial truckload, and then you have to ask yourself, isn't that waste of motion going back and forth with 5 of something when you could have brought 50 to begin with? So here we have to balance and come up with a justification for such a small order, because that would be wasted gas. And also another problem is the supplier close by? Well, if they're not, and transportation is a problem or delays and stuff like that, and this is often the case, the supplier moves closer to the operation. So the suppliers might be right around in the neighborhood of the plant. Now, let's look at why is this important? Why do we need to reduce inventory? Things expire, but if you look at it, look at all these boxes I have. These boxes are warehouses, and we could have more warehouses over here. See, we have our suppliers who are going to provide us with something, and they have to have their warehouses because they don't trust their suppliers. And then the suppliers send their goods into our warehouse. This is our operation here, possibly in bulk. So we have a warehouse because we don't trust these people, and then we have our operation, and then we have our finished goods after our activities are done to transform the raw materials into a finished good. Then we have our finished good warehouse. And then now we have our warehouse all loaded up, and we have the retailers. Maybe we ship to retailers. So the retailers have their distribution systems and their warehouses to store all of our finished goods, and we sell to them in bulk, right? Everybody wants to buy in bulk. And then they ship from their warehouses out to the individual stores. And in the back of the store, there would be a warehouse. So look at all the warehouses. And why do we need the warehouses? So that is a lot of money. That's a lot of goods sitting around, doing nothing, getting old, coming discolored, and it might even go out of style. What if it went out of style? Now we have all of this, and this, and this, and this, and nobody wants it anymore. Huge, huge waste opportunity there. So instead, what would be the better solution? We make our stuff, and I get our goods into the store, and we put 12 on the shelf. We have 12 on the shelf at the store. And then with all the computers and communication, we need communications here too. The individual store comes back and says, well, we sold 4 today. Hey, why are we making all these? They sold 4. So they come back, maybe at midnight. A lot of these stores are open all the time. At midnight, they might be the cutoff and says, we sold 4 today. So that communication goes back to our operation, and it might simultaneously go back to the suppliers, but they say, we sold 4. It's not going out of style tomorrow. Make 4. So we get, hey, they sold 4, let's make 4. Hey, we need supplies to make 4. So we send the communication back to the suppliers. They send us, there's no warehouse. They send us enough supplies to make 4. We skip right past the finished goods. We skip right past these, well, we might have the distribution systems, yes. and then we restock the shelf with 4 because there only needs to be 12 on there. So see how more efficient that would be. There's not all this waiting and waste and things going out of style. Now, this sounds ridiculous at 4, but a lot of these retailers, you know, might have 1,000 stores, 5,000 stores. So each store reports back to the retailer and says, we sold 4, we sold 6, we sold none, we sold 3, and it all gets consolidated, and it comes back here and says, make 45,460. Well, we talk to our suppliers, and they send us enough to make just 45,460, if we can do that quick, and then it flows. So here we've achieved even flow, and it's actually pulling. And we get feedback, and we make exactly what's needed. I was at a big box store a couple of years ago, and I wanted some sprinkler hoses, micro sprinkler hoses. They had like 2 rolls that were black rubber, and the other one was a tan rubber, which didn't look right. I wanted the black one. And I said, hey, I need 6 of these, and I want them all black. There's only 2 here that are black. The other 4, 6, 8 were tan. So can you go back to the back and see if you have 4 more of the black micro irrigation tubing? The guy says, there is no back. I said, what do you mean there's no back? He goes, there's no back. The store, big box store, that's the warehouse. And I guess since the inventory had gotten down to 2, maybe the next case or whatever, a case of 12 was coming any minute. So we have even flow. We don't have any waiting. Get rid of this, get rid of this. We might need some of that, just a little bit, and then get rid of this because everything is on the shelf. No inventory, less space, less cash, less unneeded transportation. There you go, just in time.